I think how you looking? You looking good?
Crazy.
You do look good. And I hope you think you look good because we're live.
Ah!
Jesus, it snuck up on us.
It's live. Is this?
That thing is on. Look at Lana with her fancy headphones. She was explaining to me why she had to wear them.
Yeah, and I don't even like them. I mean,
Yeah.
I do love them, but not for the show because I'm just too cute to have.
No question. I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. I'm goofy looking, so this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. None of it matters. But Lana's got to, she's got to hold up. Now your mic's out. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? She's unplugged. Are you unplugged? A professional like Lana Quest? I can't hear you. This is technical difficulties. And we don't have an engineer. Yep.
So when the mic unplugged, it went to mute.
Gotcha.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, you would have had to sign language your way through this. Sorry. I wasn't prepared to fly by myself this time.
No, we were going to make this happen.
100%. Anyway,
yes.
Welcome to Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. Please like and subscribe if you can. Just like I said, we've talked about this before. Just hit the like button now. There's no reason not to hit the like button. I'll tell you what, because you can unlike it, right?
Sure.
So you can hit it now.
Sure.
And then if you don't like it, just unlike it. But
unlike it. Unshare it.
Unshare it, unlike it, just whatever. But right now, just like it. I mean, it's not that difficult. But anyway, we definitely have a lot to get to. Right before I got on here with Lana, I was doing some work and it was taking longer than I thought. So my prep time was diminished. But that's okay. I mean,
I have no prep time. So you see, I still have perspiration on my face.
Well, that's why I was freaking out when I couldn't hear you. I was like, I'm not prepared to do this by myself tonight. So fix that microphone like now. Hopefully you guys were able to tune into the Quest show on last week. She had probably the coolest, greatest guest she's probably ever had since she's been on the Quest show.
Yes.
She had me on,
and
we had a great time. It was basically the same exact show, except she was on this side.
Exactly.
And I was on that side.
It was the same exact show.
I was basically we just flipped the screens and that's basically what you got. Although I will say, Lana, you drove the car this time. I got to sit in the passenger seat.
I know, it was like we were co-driving at the same. It's the same to me.
Well, anyway, we had a great time. We had a great discussion, and a lot of what we talked about certainly is going to spill over into this week because we all know the big news of the trial last week. We finally got the jury
got the verdict.
Jesus, we got the verdict. Yes. And for the first time in, I don't know what, 8 years, we finally got this guy.
I know. Just think about that.
Yeah.
You know, just like last year, we were like, oh my God, is he ever going to get anything? When those indictments came down, it was like, at least we got one. We're not going to get any more, but we got the one.
Well, actually, we'll take that back. E. Jean Carroll got him twice.
That is true.
The state of New York got him. So, and they hit him where it really hurts in his pocketbook, which now we have hit his ego. So blasting his pocketbook and blasting his ego is just, at the end of the day, in November, we all might get laughed at some point, and it beyond laughed at, we are going to feel terrible if he somehow pulls this out. But for right now, I don't see why there's any reason not to celebrate.
I mean, hey, it's just a bad look, dude. Like, it is. We talk about this all the time. It's beyond me how MAGA, his supporters, continued to like defend the indefensible. Like, so he was convicted, but they're like, it's rigged. But then, like, I was looking at Maury earlier, Maury, whatever his name is, but it showed like all the convictions of like all of his lawyers, all of his personal aides, and all of his advisors. Like, there's so like this man had his whole administration's been indicted.
I mean, and also too that they think that the Democrats are so powerful that they can do whatever they want, commit all the crimes that they want to. They could go after somebody like Donald Trump, who they think is the most powerful person in the world, right, and they can get him, they can get all the Republicans, and that this is just a big ploy by the Democrats and they can't be stopped. It just, but on the same turn, the guy that they're saying is doing all this is also a guy that's got dementia and doesn't know where he's at and doesn't know what he's doing.
But it's impossible. Like, it's just, if you are a thought out person, it's fucking impossible. I mean, Clark, Eastman, Giuliani, Ellis, Powell, Cheesebro, those are just the attorneys, right? Yeah. And then you have the other guys like that.
Mark Meadows.
Right. Doesn't make sense. Then you got like Bannon. Then you have like
Mike Flynn.
Like then the other guy with the dark hair, what was his Manafort? Like, you all just in this
Papadopoulos.
What's the white guy with the Nixon white haired guy with the Nixon?
Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. Like, it's just on and on. That's impossible. What, the Democrats just like all of these people?
Not to mention hundreds of morons who stormed the Capitol. I mean, it just...
Right.
Exactly. You know...
Exactly.
We're living in a bizarro world that there is no getting out of. And again, the defense, part of it has... If you are doing it to troll or you're doing it because you just want to defend Donald Trump, that's still pure stupidity. That's not a brilliant, intelligent move. That comes from stupidity, even if you don't believe what you're saying. Right. That's just fucking dumb.
Right.
So we've talked about this a million times. We're not out to straighten out this MAGA cult. I think at some point, the only hope for them is if this goes backwards and we go back to the days of sort of normalcy. And I think at this point, it's going to take years for us to get back to that point, even if Donald Trump is gone. But if Donald Trump is defeated in November, you're going to see him at his weakest, most terrible point. We're close to seeing it now. But if he's defeated in November, 2025 is going to be the beginning of the end of MAGA. And again, it may still be around, but Lana, can you think of anybody that could take a Donald Trump's place that would be as powerful? I think they would be so deflated that their hero was defeated that it's kind of like, I mean, I've had this feel, it's certainly not on the same level. I've had this with my sports teams. They've been beaten and I'm just like, the new year's coming. You know what? Whatever. You know, it just like they shit the bed last year. Why do I have expectations this year? And I think people are going to kind of have that same feeling of, I can't put my energy into this anymore.
I thought about that today, which is funny you brought that up. I thought about like, when he's gone, who's gonna be trying to take over like the Capitol and change elections? Nobody. They're going to go back to hiding and doing it on the sneak, right? They're just doing it now just so Trump emboldens them for some kind of reason. It's like they're all in it together and they're just so bold. But once he's gone, they're going to go back to the, trying to redistrict, gerrymander style, like do it the way they used to do it in a sly way. This right here is, he's just out. He just wants to change the government. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think anyone has the fucking audacity to be like, I'm just going to change how the government works right now. I'm not.
Are you talking about anybody other than Trump, or do you don't think Trump would even do that?
No, anyone other than.
Oh, yeah.
Gone. Like, I don't even think.
I agree with that.
Would try to go that far. I just don't think he would do it.
I agree with you. I mean, you certainly have people who, again, I would not love being president, but like a Nikki Haley, she's not going to do what a Donald Trump does. And first of all, she would never, if she lost an election, she would go, damn, I lost. Yeah. Congratulations, and move on. And I think it's even stupid to say, I can't think of anybody other than if by some bizarre miracle, Marjorie Taylor Greene becomes the new Donald Trump, or
Carrie Lake.
Well, Carrie Lake can't even win her own fucking districts, and she can't win her own races.
Those would be the two people we know that would be like, I'm not leaving, I won. This rig, like that.
And I don't even know if they could pull it off because first of all, they're women, and these tough, proud boy. Well, I say tough, pretend tough guys. They wouldn't be listening to, the lady telling them what to do. Yeah. So, but anyway, Donald Trump is. The question now is what happens with him. Is he going to go to prison? Are they going to confine him to his home? Are they just going to give him some sort of probation? What do you think happens with Donald Trump at this point?
Home confinement, probation, probably probation because he's running for president. So they're not even going to confine him to his home unless they confine him when he's not going to like a campaign thing. But I don't even see that happening.
Yeah. So then you got to wonder, what is all this about? What's the purpose of even doing this other than the fact that, I mean, if you're in the state of New York and there are people committing crimes, you kind of go, I don't care who this guy is. I don't care what the circumstances are. He committed a crime and we have to go after this. And maybe just having him as a convicted felon is enough for people to say,
yeah, get that stain on him. Like, no one expected him to go to jail. And I don't think that this, just in general, with him not having any prior felonies, any record like that, why would he be going to jail? Like, to be honest with you, why would anyone else? Would they go to jail on something like that? I mean, Martha, what she did, I don't know.
Well, that was insider trading with stocks and stuff like that. But from my understanding, that there have been dozens of cases like this, and there have been people that gone to jail. Also, too, what about? I mean, Michael Cohen went to jail for this, so. Why wouldn't Donald Trump? And he isn't the kingpin of this whole thing.
Well, what did he go to jail for? Perjury? What was his crime?
I think it was. You know what? Actually, I'd have to go back and look. But it's something. It is in the same ballpark, and it's the reason why he went to jail, because specifically, and that's why he's testifying at this trial. So he went to jail for it. But again, I at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to matter whether he goes to jail or not. I think just the fact that he is a convicted felon, we've already seen some polls that have come out, and they had said that independents, not even said that they thought he was guilty. They think he should drop out of the race. Even 15% of Republicans say he needs to drop out of the race. And that's a pretty big number for Republicans to say, not just that he was guilty or I'm not voting for him, that he needs to drop out of the race. That's a big deal.
Those maybe Nikki Haley's voters.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Or, I think there are some Trump voters. It's few. But again, when we have an election that are going to, basically going to be won on the margins, and they're going to be won in a very close race, if you take out 3, 4, 5% of Donald Trump voters out of this election, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal, because Lana, can you think of anybody that goes, I was going to vote for Joe Biden, but after this thing in New York, I am switching to Donald Trump? Now, there's going to be plenty of bots on Twitter that are going to say that. But do you think in real life that that's going to happen?
It's the bots on Twitter.
Yeah.
Hilarious. One thing though, Cohen, it said in November 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty to lying to the U.S. Congressional Committee about efforts to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. In December 2018, Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison in order to pay $50,000 fine.
Okay. All right.
So he lied. But he lied for Trump. That's the thing.
That's what I said. I mean, they keep trying to paint Michael Cohen as a liar the whole
Trump
time.
threw him in jail.
And Trump hired him to be a liar. So I mean, it's just this.
Yeah, but remember, it was a lot more to do with Cohen going to jail because wasn't that Trump's DOJ? Wasn't Michael Cohen like about to write a book or do something?
I will be honest, I don't remember a whole bunch about what happened back then.
Because that was Trump's DOJ. There was something else with this.
Well, that's what they say. If that story happened without a Donald Trump, it'd probably be easier to remember. But because of Donald Trump and this nonsense that goes on, we could barely remember what happened 2 weeks ago. So it's difficult. It's not as easy as it was. But so Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts, 34 of 34, which was great. I mean, it was, you're sitting there. We talked about this on your show Thursday night. That it's a little nerve wracking. You're like, somehow is he going to get out of this? And you're like, there's no chance other than a hung jury. But as we spoke about on your show, once they realized that once we realized there was a verdict,
right. That was
think there's a 0% chance all 34 counts were going to be not guilty, but all 34 being guilty, that was satisfying.
Yeah, like it really was.
Yeah, it was so exciting for Lana. She called me. She was like, "This is awesome. Do you want to come on my show tonight?"
Exactly. Like, oh my God, I got this news on my day. You want to share it?
Yep. Appreciated it. So you could go back and watch us talk about it on the Quest Show. So we're going to move forward. Donald Trump gave an interview to Fox News regarding the trial and the upcoming election and all this nonsense. But one of the questions he was asked about was, are you going to seek revenge on your political opponents? And this is what he had to say.
Have expressed concern that if you're elected, you're going to want revenge. And some of your supporters have said, well, mutually, we're just talking about the weaponization of the justice system against political opponents. Some of your supporters have said, well, the only way to stop this is mutually assured destruction, right? If you do it to us, we're going to do it to you.
Lana, let me ask you. You're younger than I am, but I think we both grew up in a time where newscasters and people who would interview presidents and higher officials and stuff like that would ask very pointed and serious questions.
Right.
This woman is basically leading this big dummy because she knows he's a dummy. And she just knows I need to say your supporters, kind of hyping him up with his answers. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah. She's smart.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, right.
She knows what to do.
Right.
You've said, no, my revenge is going to be success for America. You've just had this verdict. Do you still feel the same? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really tough question in one way, because these are bad people. These people are sick, and they do things that are so destructive. I mean, look what they did from the day I got there. And I don't know, a lot of people said, we have no choice but to elect Trump. Republicans, because he's the only one that can withstand this. Don't forget, if it weren't me, they'd be going after somebody else. And I know a lot of the competition, they wouldn't do so well. They wouldn't be doing so well right now. They'd be saying, "Mommy, take me home. I want to go."
I will say in defense of the competition, even I can't stand the competition, the Ron DeSantis's, the Nikki Haley's, all those people, they would never be in this position. So they wouldn't have to worry about going through this. Right?
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry. It's his voice.
I know. Well, I got Marjorie Taylor Greene coming up too. So
this is brutal.
Prepare.
But these are sick people. And for instance, the 51 intelligence agents, who thinks of these? Look, it's a very interesting question. And I say it and it sounds beautiful, right?
Sounds
my
beautiful.
revenge will be success. And I mean that. But it's awfully hard when you see what they've done. These people are so evil.
You famously said regarding Hillary Clinton, lock her up. You declined to do that as president.
I beat her. It's easier when you win. And they all said lock her up. And I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it.
So
what does that have to do with Hillary? Like, I thought he said he didn't even say it.
He did. He said he never said lock her up. And I literally I had the most amount of clips that I ever could have chose from tonight, and I can only line up 10 of them. But I think most people have already seen at this point. I don't need to play the clips of Donald Trump saying lock her up because he claims I didn't say it. He clearly 100%
Where
said
did the
it.
audience start saying it from? Like themselves? They did not. He started saying that.
He said it on numerous occasions. Lana, what difference does it make? I mean, first of all,
Right,
most of us, the knowledgeable, intelligent people know that he said it. And even if you play the clip of him saying it, it's either going to be AI or it's going to be something stupid or they'll defend it in some stupid manner.
Right.
So
Right.
Hillary deserved it anyway. Just whatever. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
But same things. He uses the same adjectives over, and it's beautiful. Bad guy.
Interesting.
These people, yeah, like oh my god. And when he's really going to get into it, he does his hands and oh.
I've said before that when you hear him talk, the only thing I can picture is like a fourth grader in front of class giving his report. That's what it feels like literally every time he speaks. But they keep, like the MAGA people will say Joe Biden's stupid and all these other people make no sense.
It's unbelievable. I'm like, how does anyone with any brain cells think he sounds intelligent?
I don't know, but these are the people that he will be speaking to in this next clip, the people who don't have the brain cells. And this is one of the things that a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about.
Yeah.
They're anxious about if something happens to the orange hero, that there will be riots and there will be all kinds of violence. And they asked Donald Trump basically about this, and of course he gives his dog whistle answer.
So that could happen. I don't know that the public would stand it. I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a
tried house arrest or
I think it would be tough for the public to take. At a certain point there's a breaking point.
people ask you, why do you?
Yeah, he uses the word breaking point. And it's kind of, again, it's one of those dog whistles where it's trying to get his followers all jacked up to say, hey, if something happens to me, kind of like the stand by and stand back or stand back, stand by kind of thing. Yeah. Are you worried about that? Do you have any worry about violence and a MAGA takeover?
I mean, what are they taking over? I don't know. Like that. No. They're ready for them. Like they're going to be ready for these fools this time.
Well, that's the funny thing is that everybody keeps saying that Donald Trump will be ready the next time he's in office and he'll be more prepared and learn from the last time. You're exactly right. The law enforcement's going to learn from the last time too. And these motherfuckers will have zero chance, like no chance at all if they even think they're going to pull some kind of thing. And I think there are people legitimately worried that there could be some random violence. There could be some things that happen here and there, and that certainly could be. But the picture that they're painting is that if you're a liberal or a Democrat, they're going to just march through your door and pull you out of your home and beat you to death or whatever the case is. And, there's a lot of big talk, but I will say even a lot of the MAGA people, they love the talk. They love the bluster. They love the Donald Trump thing. And they're going to wind up just like Donald Trump at the end, all talk, no action. And it's just going to be like, yeah, all right, let's move on with our lives.
The ringleaders are in jail. So, you know, they may have those loose cannons here and there that, you know, a few, but I don't see what happened before. Hey, is the White House federally funded? Like, who is that? A federal kind of like a how is that federal housing?
I would imagine. Why do you ask?
I ask that because Donald Trump is a felon. Felons can't live in federal housing.
You know, that's an interesting point. Wouldn't it be funny if he could not? Actually, you know what though? You know what's he barely lived at the White House anyway when he was president.
True. He lived at
either Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago. Yeah.
What do we call it? The Winter White House or something?
Yeah. So I don't think he would care.
That is true.
Yeah.
You're right.
One more hilarious clip. If I were to ask Lana or really pretty much any normal human being about their children, I think that they would be able to say many things about them. They would tell them exactly what they're doing, exactly what's happening. He was asked about Melania and Barron's reaction. And you talk about a word salad of adjectives that is just so, it's painful to listen to, but it's fucking hilarious because you could tell this guy has no idea who this fucking kid is.
Oh, wow.
But it's tougher. I think it's probably, in many ways, it's tougher on my family than is and me. You know, how's Melania doing? She's fine, but I think it's very hard for her. I mean, she's fine. But
asking him how Melania is doing is just the same way when those guys asked him to cite his favorite Bible verse.
Yeah, she's fine. She's fine.
Yeah, oh man, it's hard, but fine. You know, he has no fucking clue how. No, she knows how he's doing. She's pissed as fuck, but
right.
Yeah. Come on.
It's funny they asked him that, like he really lives with her. Like they asked him
right to read all this crap.
What about Barron?
This is awesome.
People started to focus on Barron recently.
He's amazing, actually, in a certain way. You know, he's tall, good-looking guy. He's a very good student, and he's applied to colleges and gets into everywhere he goes. You know, he's very sought after from the standpoint. He's a very smart guy. He's a very tall guy, but he's a great kid. He's cool. He's pretty cool, I'll tell you.
Cool,
it's very interesting though. Colleges, you know, 6 months ago.
What is going on?
You look at a college and you sort of want a certain college, and then you see all of these colleges are rioting.
Anyway.
And maybe you want to go to a different kind of a college.
So that's close to the end of it anyway, but I mean, he's tall, he's cool, tall again. I mean, does he know that kid?
No, there's no anecdotes about his son. You know, the other day I was just talking to Barron and he was telling me that, you know, when we went to visit UCLA, that was his favorite, and I want him to go to. He's just like, yeah, in the colleges, and he's tall. You know that guy? It's like, y'all know that guy. I don't know that guy.
You know what the best part was? It's like he was sitting there trying to think of things I can say about Barron, and you could just tell the moment where he remembered that college is somewhere in there. And he was like, oh, college. Yeah, that too.
And he's to every one of them, and he's just a bright. And then I would imagine now he goes on to brag about how many colleges Barron got accepted into, because it's so hard to get into colleges, and Barron got into them all. Like,
well, he says that he got into them from the standpoint of being smart or whatever. I just, this guy is just so fucking stupid. I bet you even Barron's going, that goddamn, my dad.
I know,
fuck.
That's why Barron was like, hell no, I'm not going to be a delegate. I don't even know what the fuck a delegate is. Right. You're not using me for that.
Who even floated that? Like, who thought that was a good idea? Because there was no way. And my guess is that Melania maybe stepped in and goes, what do you think you're doing here?
She probably doesn't even know. She's probably like, he's not doing that kind of thing. Whatever politics, we're not doing politics. And
I mean, Melania is, again, too, I have seen numerous press conferences, politicians, actors, whatever, of a spouse cheating on another spouse, and the wife was behind the man or whoever during the press conference. They were there to at least back up and say, hey, we're still married, whatever.
Right.
Melania has not been seen literally maybe once or twice at an event, but not once at any of these trials, not once at, the E. Jean Carroll trial. Of course, why would you, if you're his wife, why would you want to go to a trial where he was accused of rape? Right. You certainly don't want to go to the one that he just lost because you have a Stormy Daniels, you have a, who was the young lady, the Playboy model,
McDougal.
Yes, Karen McDougal, even a Hope Hicks, which that relationship was weird. Yeah. So no Melania, but
I mean, there was no Melania in the White House either. She was barely there. She was in New York. She didn't be there.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a strange dynamic, but
stunt double. Like Melania, every time you turned around, you're like, that's not even Melania in that picture.
Yeah.
Like they would get off the plane and it wasn't Melania.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I know that's what they were. That's what they were saying. And again, we talked about this the other night. Is like we don't have any proof of that, but it is. It
was true, but it didn't look like Melania. Like it wasn't her. No, it just wasn't Melania. It just, and the person didn't say anything.
Right.
Those were the times when they kept the shades on, they kept the coat up, and just smiled. Yep. That was it. That was what they were paid to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's not Melania if she's smiling. Nailed it. Appreciate that. All right. I'm going to move on to the next story that our president, Joe Biden, today used his executive orders to implement some border control and some border policies because he was sort of tired of the pretending of the Republicans, not even really pretending, but it was this posturing about the border. Right. They had a border plan in place. Republicans were on board with it. In fact, this border plan probably would have been very similar, almost exactly the same, had a Republican president been in office. And it was rejected by other Republicans because Daddy told him, no, this is my deal.
Yeah.
And some Republicans are like, well, I thought this was something we really need. Nope, don't do that. That's points for Joe Biden. This can wait. Well, wait a minute. I thought this was a crisis. There's this huge thing on Fox News that comes at my face that says border crisis and fire and all this shit. And but Joe said,
we can't get a win for Biden. So we're not going to sign. We're not even going to read this bipartisan border deal that was set up by a Republican. We're not doing it.
Makes no sense, but this is Joe Biden, our president, who was at the podium today, gave a press conference about it today, and this is what he had to say.
I'm joined by a bipartisan group of governors, members of Congress, mayors, law enforcement officials, most of whom live and work.
I understood everything that he said. He didn't start off with like bad, evil, very bad, and do his hands.
Interesting.
Right.
Let's say people are like, yeah, he's reading off a teleprompter. Donald Trump isn't. First of all, that doesn't make it better, because if you're still trying to defend how stupid Donald Trump sounds by saying Biden's reading off a teleprompter is not the, I guess what they say, the flex you think it is. Right. But I've heard Joe Biden in interviews. I've heard him speak. Exactly. I brought up before. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say that Howard Stern is a hard-hitting journalist asking him the tough questions, but when he spoke and answered the questions, they were eloquent, they were clear. He spoke like an intelligent human being. Donald Trump speaks like a fourth grader giving a report in front of class.
Yeah, he speaks like an ape.
Right. I know that's an insult to apes.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Along the southern border. They know the border is not a political issue to be weaponized. The responsibility we have to share to do something about it. They don't have time for the games played in Washington, and neither do the American people. So today, I'm moving past Republican obstruction and using the executive authorities available to me as president to do what I can on my own to address the border. Frankly, I would have preferred to address this issue through bipartisan legislation because that's the only way to actually get the kind of system we have now that's broken, fixed, to hire more Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, more judges. But Republicans have left me no choice.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's Joe Biden adding jobs. Again, it's him doing, if they're going to say we're not going to do this because of political reasons, then Joe's going to go, you know what? Okay, fuck it. Then I'm going to do it. And then you guys could figure out, what your next play is.
Right. Exactly. It's ridiculous. And he got a lot of flack for it.
He did.
But it's like, Jesus Christ, people, get outside of yourself for a minute. He's damned if you do, damned if you don't. He doesn't do anything. Like, there's no fucking easy fix, and it drives me crazy. It was like, all he needs to do is this. He should do this. And it's like, oh my God, just let him do something, because what he was doing right now was not trying to solve the problem, because he knows that he's not solving it.
Right.
What he's trying to do is call attention to what Republicans are not doing and what they are doing, which is obstruction, and telling you guys that if you vote for me and we get the House and the Senate, then we can actually pass something that makes sense. Then we all get together and work on something. That's what he needs. He can't do anything right now. Like he cannot. What is wrong with people?
He's close to also striking a deal on a ceasefire in Gaza. So he is working on this stuff. And again, it drives me nuts that people want to blame Joe Biden for what a Bibi Netanyahu did or what a Vladimir Putin does. They're trying to say that we're in two wars. We are not in two wars. There's not one American soldier fighting in either one of those wars, not one. So, but they want to find a way to blame it on him. But the reason why they do that is because they found the formula. They know if they say it enough and they scream it loud enough that he will take the blame for it, because we just don't have a bright electorate, unfortunately, when it comes to politics. There are a lot of people who want to talk about it, but they just don't really know about it. I would say, Lana and I have both said, I don't think either one of us would say that we know everything. We don't. In fact, the people in Congress certainly don't know everything.
Right.
But I can tell you that we're more in tune on what's going on than the average American. But the average American wants to give their opinions on things they just don't know about. It's really, that sucks.
It really sucks, because they're allowed to vote.
Yeah.
And you just don't, you make a decision on like just nonsense. Like no one is actually doing, you're just going by like what Trump is louder. So it's like, he must be right.
Yeah.
Is the loudest. He must be right. He said he's better for the, like, I keep going back and I'm like, what did people feel when Trump was president? Like, how were you okay with his presidency? I'm just so baffled by it, because it was so bad. He had Russians in the White House. Like he was hiding visitor logs. Like he was burning papers so you didn't know what he was doing. Like he was having drunken parties. Giuliani was just up there chilling. It was crazy. Everyone forgot about that, I guess.
I thought we've talked about that before. It's easy. People forget about what happened a few days ago. So, I remember clearly saying when I was doing my podcast, when they pulled the troops out of Afghanistan, people acted like this is going to be the worst thing for Joe Biden and he's never going to win the presidency again. I was like, we're a few months into the presidency. You think people are going to remember this 4 years from now? They won't remember this 2 weeks from now. What are you, fucking crazy?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Especially with all things going on now. They don't remember what happened in Afghanistan.
No.
Lana, and in 2 weeks, they're not going to remember the fucking Trump was found guilty.
No, you're right. I mean, I listened to them yesterday with Dr. Fauci. And that was bizarre to me.
We are going to get to that here in a minute, but before we do, I want to play this one last clip of
I'm like,
yeah, no, I mean, because you're right, and I'm glad you brought that up. But Keith Self is a representative out of Texas, and if anybody knows about the border, it's Keith, and he is being interviewed by Fox's Maria Bartiromo, and we talk about somebody trying to lead the question again, and she got an answer that she did not expect, and this was something that I hope a lot of people saw.
Yeah. So what's wrong with Congress then, Congressman? I mean, why can't you actually move the needle on securing the border? I understand you need a willing partner on the other side, and you have an.
And that's the leading part is I know you have a partner on the other side that's not willing to work. And again, she's not going to like the answer.
Had that. But it's frustrating to see all of these illegals coming in and the drugs flowing in and really no movement.
The problem is the Republicans, not the Democrats. We know how the Democrats are going to vote. It's too many of my Republican colleagues are unwilling to vote to secure the border.
Did you see her face? She was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, he has no reason to side with Democrats there.
Yeah.
He has no reason to do it. But this is a guy who obviously takes his job seriously. And it's like, I'm not playing this nonsense with you.
Right.
Here's what's really going on.
Right.
It's not the Democrats.
Right. Because they want to sign the border. He can't, how can he lie? Like he couldn't, and I'm glad that he didn't because he would have looked stupid because what was he going to say? Democrats won't do what? Because there's a bipartisan bill. So what can you say they won't do?
Well, I mean, on Fox News, you could say whatever you want because people.
You're right.
Yeah, that's what they do there. I mean, again, when you're on a regular, and I'm not saying Maria Bartiromo is the, she's not the journalist that we need to go to figure out, but she's not the 8 to 11 o'clock PM slot, where they just basically say whatever the fuck.
Right.
So, I'm glad that there are still legislatures out there who do take the job seriously in a time where it feels like there are so many of them that are not there for what they were hired for. They're there to just make noise and to try to get clips on podcasts and Fox News and all that clownish shit. And it's really frustrating, but good on him for saying and doing the right thing there.
Right.
All right. I got good news and bad news.
Okay.
You want to go to the bad news first?
Sure.
Okay. The bad news is that we got some MGTG. We gotta hear her voice. All right.
Cool. But
fun. There's a couple of clips that follow it that are so good. And one of it is, I mean, it was just so I listened to it. I was like, this has got to be in the top 5 greatest things said at any of these congressional hearings ever. I hope I'm not overhyping it. I might be, but for me, fucking loved it. But here is Marjorie Taylor Greene. This for her, she put on extra makeup. She did her hair a little bit more this time because this was her Super Bowl. This is the day.
Good dress up. You're right.
I get to go after America's devil.
Yeah.
The guy who's been around for decades, longer than she was even born.
Yeah.
Helping people, trying to discover what he can do to cure disease. And
Unbelievable. He didn't do a good job because she's still around.
That is true. But try to do everything he could, which he did, to gather a group of the greatest scientists in the world to quickly and effectively come up with one of the greatest vaccines ever invented in this country. And that is the COVID vaccine, period. Yeah. That's all there is to it. And this was a hearing. I don't know why we need to have this hearing. I've asked people this before. I'm still not really clear on the answer, but this was a hearing as to whether or not that the COVID came from a lab or it didn't come from a lab. And again, it would be interesting to know. I will concede to that, but why there needs to be a congressional hearing about it and
Right.
If we find out that it was a lab leak or it wasn't, what now? I'm not really sure. Do you know? Do you have any idea what the differences would be if you heard it one way or another?
No.
I mean, are we going to go to war with China now? Is that what the...
Yeah, and then a lot of these questions didn't even seem like it had anything to do with where it originated from. So there's that.
Yeah, no, it just basically turned into, this is my chance to shit on a guy that we, for some incredibly unknown, bizarre, and unhinged reason, turning this man into somebody that either to them needs to be in prison or dead.
Right. Yeah. Did you see that they let a guy in from J6 that served some time?
Yeah, and this little clown, him and his little buddy next to him, making faces the whole time behind Dr. Fauci. Sometimes there's part of me that wishes I was there, because I would have turned around and said, hey, you fuck faces. You make one more goddamn face, I'm going to come over there and fucking
how did they get there? How did they get in?
I'm probably invited by a Marjorie Taylor Greene, or that's exactly what it was. And it's just everything's a clown show for them. Just like when Trump debated Hillary, he had to invite the women that accused Bill Clinton. And, you know, the funny thing is, you know how many people Joe Biden could invite to the debates with Donald Trump that would shake him? But he's just a regular, normal human being. He wouldn't do anything like that. But if you're somebody that thinks that's cool and funny, and you think that that is a quality that would make you want to vote for him, then you're a fucking idiot.
Dangerous. Like, it's dangerous. That's dangerous. That's so crazy. What did the guy do? I promise not to jump on Fauci and beat him up. Like, it's so dangerous. It didn't make any sense.
No, it didn't make any sense. And it was really irritating. But, you know, like I said, at some point, you've got to find a way to shame these people. And I'm going to play a couple clips, by the way, that is a good start. But let's listen. Everybody, if you want to, just kind of turn the volume down so you don't have to hear her voice as loud. But here's Marjorie Taylor Greene in her Super Bowl. This is the biggest moment of her political career, is that now she gets to go one-on-one with America's devil, Dr. Fauci.
Appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci?
She did put on more makeup, and she got her hair. She did do it, didn't she?
Yeah, she put more weave in.
Yeah, she did something there. And by the way, this is her thing.
Her extension.
She refuses to call him Dr. Fauci, just like, you know, I refuse to call Donald Trump President Trump. But I think, you know, we have probably more of a reason, but that's neither here nor there. Let's listen to this idiot continue with what she thinks is her greatest moment.
So embarrassing.
Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection. Mr. Objection.
By the way, real quick, you could see the clown over his left shoulder, sort of with the buzz cut. And then there's a bald guy over his right shoulder that they're both back there. They're like the two fucking old Muppets up in the balcony making fun of everybody. That's basically what they are, except the Muppet dudes were hilarious and cool. These two are clowns and dorks.
I reclaim my time. Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in
Gentlelady will
prison.
suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Stupid.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become?
Yeah, I mean, it's become such a fucking joke, Congress. I mean, this is something, as much as we could think about in the past politics of other politicians we didn't like. I mean, I have never seen somebody just, I forget about being, she's too smart. She's just so stupid Does she think she's smart and what she thinks she's doing? Obviously, she lives in a bubble where she's a hero there. And this for her was her time to shine.
Right. She got the clowns in the back laughing.
Yep.
So she's not a doctor.
She had an audience.
Like, why would you even fucking say that with all of his education and then yours? Like, you just that alone means you're really fucking stupid and not aware of yourself. Like, girl, what?
I think she's made clear for years that she's not aware of her own stupidity. I will say, though, you could tell Jasmine Crockett fucked her head up because days after that, oh my, she was trying to pose. She was showing pictures of her in a bikini later.
Yeah,
she was,
That's why she's like that now.
Yep.
Like she's trying to dress differently so it doesn't, so it hides her, but like feminizes her a little bit. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And I think Jasmine really got to her. And again, I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene. See, sometimes when somebody gets to you, it's because you have the feeling or you have the sense that they may be smarter than you, better than you, whatever that feeling is.
Yeah.
But Jasmine Crockett, she's like, she can't get to me. I will fuck her up the day I'm ready. And she was ready to do it that one day.
Like, what words? Fucked up with like Jasmine Crockett's a whole attorney, girl. You want to debate? That's who you want? You really?
Yeah.
Okay, girl. I would love to see it.
And we did. And you see what it did to her. It really got to her. And quite frankly, like I said, not something that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lana, but I think you would agree. This is not the decorum overall that we want to see in Congress.
It's gross.
Yeah.
It's just one thing, he's a doctor. The other thing is like, he's an elderly man. So you're so wildly disrespectful to this old man who just tried to save. It's like they're calling him a murderer, and it's like, how is he the murderer? Like, which is it? COVID wasn't dangerous, and we didn't need to lock down. People could just walk around. Or you're saying he caused this leak and caused COVID that killed all these people, but then he also tried to have people social distance and wear a mask. Like, what are you saying right now? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I will tell you what, I could not stand wearing that mask. I promise you I didn't. And I will tell you, there were times I went to the store, drove all the way there and realized, fuck, my mask is at home. So I had to turn all the way around, go home and get it, and go all the way back. That for me does not mean I am ready to throw Dr. Fauci in jail. This is so bizarrely stupid. And for many Americans, too many Americans, what she is saying was phenomenal. It was gold. It was just music to their ears.
Did those people not lose anyone to COVID?
Sure they did.
Because I just don't understand.
Yep.
They lost people to COVID, but we're blaming Fauci for what? Because Fauci's not the fucking president who knew that it was coming down the pipe and didn't say anything. And we heard him tell, what's his name during it?
Bob Woodward.
Yeah, Woodward. Hey, this is really bad. It's really contagious. It's in the air, and I'm not going to alarm. I'm not going to tell anyone. Like,
well, that was clear. I mean, he would say one thing in private and say a different thing in public. And again, it was one of those things because he thought the only reason why he did not warn everybody is he thought that was going to hurt him politically. The ironic thing is the way he handled it is what hurt him politically. Not, if he would have acted more like a leader, I'm afraid that he would have probably won again. But he didn't act like a leader. He wanted to come out and say, this thing's going to be gone by April. Don't worry about it. Then April came by and the numbers were triple from the time he said it.
Right.
And people were like, but you still have people in the streets. You're taking away my freedoms. You're taking away my rights. And I've got to say, I think I've said this before on my old podcast, I think it's pretty insulting to, some Americans that you're telling them that their freedoms are being taken away because you got to put a fucking piece of cloth over your mouth. What are you, fucking nuts?
Yeah, but want to control women's bodies and when they can, be pregnant and when not to be pregnant, and when you can do IVF and you can't, what to do with your embryos. Like, oh, but don't tell me to wear that mask. Oh, my body.
Well, we talked about, and this, she was shaken up. Old MTG was shaken up again after this because this was her Super Bowl. But of course, a couple people blasted her. One was Jared Moskowitz, which, by the way, is turning into a superstar. This guy has some classics. And, it is funny. Again, at the end of the day, do we want our politics to be this way? No, but it is. And if we want to go back to what Donald Trump said earlier, people have a breaking point at some point, and the Democrats aren't going to sit in there and let these clowns just clown them all day. Right. So what's going to happen is much smarter people are going to clown you the fuck back. Right. And this, when they say it, it's going to sting way more because it's true when they say it about you. What you're saying has no validity whatsoever, except for in some goofy MAGA world that nobody gives a fuck about. But this is Jared Moskowitz referring to the gentle lady.
Dr. Fauci, good to be with you here today. I was not here, but I saw a member of this committee questioned whether or not you represent science and tried to make that in some offensive way. I just want you to know most Americans don't think she represents Congress. So I hear now you double Fauci. So I don't want you to be offended by that.
That guy, he's had some classics.
That was a good one. I didn't see that one.
That was really good, but I'm about to play a clip from me. Again, I hope I'm not overhyping this. But Jamie Raskin had one of the greatest. Did you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I didn't see Moskowitz.
This was so good that I don't know. I'm just gonna play the clip and then you guys decide whether or not you think I'm overhyping it or not. I will be honest with you. I don't care if you think I'm overhyping it because I'm still gonna go. This was fantastic. Jamie Raskin.
Join my colleague from Florida in apologizing to you that some of our colleagues in the United States House of Representatives seem to want to drag your name through the mud. They're treating you, Dr. Fauci, like a convicted felon. Actually, you probably wish they were treating you like a convicted felon. They treat convicted felons with love and admiration. Some of them blindly worship convicted felons.
A fucking plus in my classroom. That guy is going to be able to advance to the next class. He doesn't even have to take any more tests. That was phenomenal for me. Tell us in the comments if you think it was just as good or email. I don't care.
Now, there's one that's better, but keep going.
What?
Did you see Eric Swalwell?
Yes. No, that was today, though.
Oh, that was today. Oh,
and that was in the hearing.
Merrick Garland.
Yeah, get Merrick Garland.
Yeah,
where another guy, it's just, again, these hearings are so ridiculous. But that was a good one. That was a good one. And I wish I had it. I would play that one. But I don't know. I just loved that
one too. Oh, sorry.
No, which one?
So when Matt Gaetz was up there talking, doing his thing with Merrick Garland, yelling at him, who said it about Matt Gaetz you're talking about weaponizing the justice system when you're walking around free after being investigated?
Damn it. And I'm trying to remember because that was a good one too. That was really good. And that's like I said, that's why these guys are doing such a great job of firing back because the old Democrats would not have done that. And especially under Nancy Pelosi, she'd been like, nope, we ain't doing that shit. We're going to be on point. We're going to do that. And now, you got Hakeem Jeffries there, who I think you have a younger group that is just like, maybe we're not going to put up with this shit. Maybe we are going to fire back and, let these people know that we're not your doormats. And by the way, we're better at this than you are.
What sucks though is that MAGA don't see the other part. They only see what Fox News is going to cut up in a clip or whatever is cutting up in a clip, so they don't ever see the response. They will never see the response unless, they, get it on Twitter when we, tweet it and then they see it and
right. Or they were covering it live. But, again, the people that are watching it while they're covering it live, they're more apt to flip the channels and to go to maybe, and not that they love CNN or an MSNBC, but they're more apt to flip the channels during commercial breaks or whatever. I mean, I think the hardcore Fox people, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of hardcore Fox people that watch it during the day, but I think you have a higher percentage that might watch it during the day that would be more apt to listen to more news. But they're not playing those clips. You're right, on Jesse Waters or
Right.
Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham. Those clips are not flying there.
Yeah. No. Unfortunately.
We talked last week about, and I want to put this as sensitively as I can. We talked about the Democrats when they message. I think we have a lot of really good messengers, but I think the messengers are people who are talking to more people that are informed rather than uninformed people. We don't have enough people talking to uninformed people.
Okay.
So I think we need some more people doing that. So it is my understanding. I know of Charlemagne the God. I don't know him as a big political guy. I know he talks politics, but I still put him in the same sort of class as a Joe Rogan or a Patrick Bet-David or some of these guys that they'll talk politics, but how much do they really know about it? Does that sound accurate? I mean, are you from, I mean, do you?
I don't trust him that much. I know recently he put somebody in his place or whatever in their place, but he is and has been the guy that kind of beat up on Biden a little bit. And that kind of disturbed me because it's like, dude, you have too big a platform to be beating up on Kamala and Biden the way you're doing it, right? So like, especially like in 2016, like it just was not a good look with Hillary, right? Like he was one of those people. So I never trusted him. I know, again, recently he came around, but I think that's because he also has a podcast with Angela Rye and Gillum.
Andrew Gillum?
Yes. So Charlemagne the God now, like he went from the Breakfast Club, but he also has like some type of cable network show, something in this podcast.
He did have a Comedy Central show, I thought, but I don't know how long that lasts.
It's not whatever it is. That's not it. Maybe this thing is on satellite. I don't know, but whatever it is, he has a podcast. I forget what it's called, but Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum has it. So he's diving, it seems, a little bit, into politics because he's going to learn a lot from these guys, right? Like I
can tell he's not committing to Biden, but he's definitely not a Trump guy. I think he said on The View, he was on The View not too long ago, and he had said disparate, or he was on, no, not The View. He was on the Greg Gutfeld show. The late night Fox show, the Greg Gutfeld, he's on the 5. He's that little twerpy guy who thinks he's hilarious and he absolutely is not. He is awful. But he was on there beating up Trump pretty well. But I got a clip, and this one's from the Breakfast Club. And it's because I don't know Charlemagne as a big political guy. I'm assuming the Breakfast Club is not where people go to get their political news.
I hope not.
Yeah. But I think in this case, I hope so, because the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, was on there, and they were asking him, basically, it sounded like they were asking him to make the case on, who to vote for. And I'm glad they gave him this platform, but his answer was so good. And it's about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So I'm going to let the whole thing play through, but it was just, I listened to the answer and I was like, yeah, I hope that more people can go on shows like Charlemagne or Joe Rogan or Patrick Bet David or
Gary Newsom to get on Charlemagne the God, because Charlemagne has a humongous audience.
Yeah. Oh, there's absolutely no question about it. And that's why I said it's just like Joe Rogan too. I don't know Joe Rogan he'll talk politics and people will get some of their political news from Joe Rogan. And that freaks me the fuck out. But
he only knows some surface stuff. He's not digging in.
And plus he hates Joe Biden, you know, so that doesn't help. And then when you have a bunch of younger people who are listening to him and now they're hearing their hero talk about how much he hates Joe Biden, it leaves the impression that he likes Donald Trump, even though I don't get the impression that he does. But I don't think he would mind if Donald Trump won.
Anyone hate Joe Biden?
I don't know. I really don't.
Just in general, what has he done to anyone?
Even if you look at the goofy TikTok clips and stuff, you might unfairly make fun of him because some of these clips are doctored, some of them, but how do you not like him? You know, like how are you angry?
Even if you don't like him, how do you hate him?
Right.
You may not like the way he talks, looks, but how do you hate him? Because
right.
He hasn't done anything to anyone, but be a decent guy.
He's
a fucking decent guy with a decent family, shows that he loves his fucking sons. He lost his wife and his daughter when he was a young man, when they just got married. Like, how do y'all remarried Jill, and Jill cared for Bo and Hunter like they were her children.
Yeah.
She's at the trial. Like, how do y'all hate this family? It's just, he rode the train to the Senate.
Right.
Like, y'all fucking correct. He's not on some big Biden plane. He is literally the blue collar guy. You guys are treating him like he's a snob.
It's mind-boggling. And he's from Scranton. That should alone, Office, the people who love The Office should love just the fact that he's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. But, you know, that's why I was glad he went on Howard Stern too, because Howard's not, you know, people don't go to Howard for your political news, but you get to know who Joe Biden is. That, you know, Howard's audience, I would imagine, you know, certainly has some intelligent people that listen, but there's a lot of uninformed people that listen to Howard Stern too. In fact, I know some people that said they stopped listening to Howard because he became too liberal, whatever they call him. I don't know that Howard became liberal. I think Howard just became somebody that understands the differences between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, or Donald Trump and really anybody else. He understands that difference the same way I think all of us do, and he has concerns about it. And you know, I'm glad that he had Joe on there so people can listen to him and go, that guy just sat through a whole live interview for an hour, not recorded, not taped and doctored later, but a live interview for 1 hour, and was as humble and just as good of a person as you expect him to be. But let's go back to the Josh Shapiro. Again, this is going to run a couple minutes, but I think it's worth listening to because it's really good and he makes a extremely strong case.
Listen, there are going to be two names on this ballot and maybe a few other randos on there as well. This is a binary choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But in many ways, I think this election is not about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's about all of us and what kind of country we want to keep building for ourselves. If you go back and look at the arc of our country, we have always made progress. Now, there have been chapters in our American story where we've taken 2 steps forward and then we've taken a step back. And I think for a lot of people, it feels like we're in one of those step back moments right now. But if you look at the progress we've made in this country, it hasn't always been made by people who occupy the White House or governors or people with titles. It's ordinary Americans rising up, demanding more, seeking justice, seeking something a little bit better for their kids than the way they had it. And so when people go vote this November, I urge them not just to look at the binary choice of candidates, but think about the kind of country we want to build. Do we want it to be decent and honorable, where we expand freedom, where we don't contract it? Do we want it to be a place where no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love, who you pray to, you feel like you have a shot here? Maybe there's not absolute perfect equity and equality, but you feel like you got a shot, where the system, as we've been talking about, is a little fairer, whether it's in our schools or in our criminal justice system. I think this election in many ways is a reflection on each of us and the kind of country we want to build. Now listen, I think if we want to build that kind of country, there's only one choice in this election, and that's Joe Biden, a guy who's focused on expanding freedoms, a guy who's decent, a guy who's honorable. I think the other choice is a dramatic reversal. I said before, 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back at times in our arc of history. I fear if Donald Trump is given the keys to the White House again, it's not maybe 1 step back, it's multiple steps back. And it's going to take us a generation to recover from that. And so I think when you go to the polls this year, yeah, of course, I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'm endorsing Joe Biden. I hope you vote for Joe Biden. But I hope you think about yourself, and I hope you think about the arc of history and the way that it has gone and your responsibility to continue the progress in this nation.
All right, there you have it. Governor Josh Shapiro. Governor Josh.
Lana, did you see it the way I saw it, or did you see it differently?
No, I mean, that was perfect explanation. That was great. It's beautiful.
I mean,
clear.
Clear. I mean, it was about because, you know, you want to feel, you want everybody, like he said, you want everybody to feel that this is your country, that we're all moving forward together. And again, with Donald Trump, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And he's right. Donald Trump wins, we go back a lot of steps. Yeah. And God damn, the journey enough is exhausting.
We've already fucked up the Supreme Court like that.
Yeah.
We're done with that for like 3 decades or something, like 30 years. Like we'll be dead by the time, you know, they start working on fixing that thing.
Yeah. Yep. No question. So we're talking about less informed voters. So there's a gentleman named Colin Cowherd. He's a very popular sportscaster. And obviously most people are tuning into his show to listen about sports. It's certainly not somebody that you go to for your political news, but he had a really interesting sort of monologue the other day. And I don't know if you saw this, but it was, this was really good too. And he's, again, talking to people who you would have to assume that the entire audience isn't there for it. Political views. You got to assume that there are people there that are there for the sports, but they might still be interested in what's happening with this election. And it is also my understanding that at one point he was a Trump supporter. I'm almost positive that I read that, but if he wasn't, forgive me, because that's a horrible thing to say about a person, but and to get wrong about. But this was pretty interesting, and he had some things to say about Donald Trump and the society that we live in now.
This about Trump before. He's trying to sell me an America that doesn't exist. Let's say I got busted for some really bad crime in court, a drug crime.
Lana, this is something that you kind of brought up earlier too.
And my wife did too, in a separate case. And then so did one of my kids, my manager, my agent, and my attorney. It would be reasonable to conclude that I'm shady and involved in a business that's not terribly legal. Well, Donald Trump is now a felon. His campaign chairman was a felon. So is his deputy campaign manager, his personal lawyer, his chief strategist, his national security advisor, his trade advisor, his foreign policy advisor, his campaign fixer, and his company CFO. They're all felons, judged by the company you keep. It's a cabal of convicts. So it's not that I'm not willing to vote for conservatives. I said I would have voted for Mitt Romney. Seemed like a decent family man. I liked the second Bush. George Bush Sr.'s son. I liked him. I thought he was a decent American, a decent human. I liked his wife, Laura Bush. I thought they were decent people. If everybody in your social circle is a felon, I don't think it's rigged. I don't think the world's against you. And to get people to agree on anything, 34 counts, 0 for 34. I mean, that's a batting slump even the New York Mets could be impressed with.
All right, now wait a minute.
0 for 34.
As a Mets fan,
when you're constantly trying to sell me on an America that I don't see, I'm not saying inflation's not an issue, but I get on airplanes all the time, and it's not a bunch of rich people. I get on.
You've alluded to this too long.
Planes. There's people in normal clothes. They don't look rich to me. and the planes are all full, and the hotels are all full, and the freeways are all full. That means people are going to work. You're trying to sell me on this story and this narrative that's just not true. Trump's entire game plan is the country is in a free fall. But when everybody in your team, everybody in your group, your cabal is a felon, maybe the world's not against you. Stop trying to sell me on everything's rigged. The country's falling into the sea. The economy's terrible. The economy's okay. It's not like on fire.
Kind of is, but
the America that I live in is imperfect. But compared to the rest of the world, I think we're doing okay.
Very good. What did you think of that, Lana?
That was good. Well done. I mean, it's just very sensible and it's great messaging.
And it's good too, because he points out that I am somebody that would have voted for that side. I have voted for that side. And, you know, it's to explain to people what the differences are is that Donald Trump's not really a Republican. Donald Trump is a chaos maker and a felon, a convicted felon. I mean, period. And quite frankly, you talk about falling just backwards into so much luck. The fact that the document case is not going to happen, the fact that the January 6th case is not going to happen, and now it looks like the fucking Atlanta case isn't going to happen. I saw the other day that, you know, they're given the opportunity to appeal the Fonnie Willis ruling, and they gave a deadline of October 1st, which is going to make it near impossible to try that case before the election. So
it's up to us.
It is up to us, because I'm telling you, any one of those trials, any one of them go through, he's 100% toast. And I meant to mention this earlier. There's going to be some interesting things to look at tonight in the primaries. We have, I think there's 5 different states. I think Iowa, like one of the Dakotas, maybe, I know New Jersey, to see, because normally in normal times, these primaries would mean nothing tonight because we already know the nominees. We know it's Trump, we know it's Biden, but in normal times, if there isn't a convicted felon, then we don't even pay attention to them. But there is a reason to pay attention to them tonight, to see where the vote falls for Donald Trump. If he's getting 90% of the vote, that's not good. That's not good for Biden. That's not good for everybody. He's getting still back in that mid 80s like he was earlier. That's still a red flag. If he's getting 80% or below, he's toast. It's over for him.
Right. I agree.
So that's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think? Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. You got anything else?
I have a couple more clips,
okay.
But do you want to see them?
Yeah, let's go quick.
All right. Let's quickly do these clips that the MAGA people were having a hard time with Donald Trump being found guilty. Jesse Waters in particular was having a rough time. And he went on his show. And keep in mind, Lana, this is a guy who makes millions of dollars to get paid. He gets paid millions of dollars to be, you're talking about in a major news slot. I mean, it's his job to sort of be a journalist, but just listen to this guy whine.
And these nitwits, consumed with hatred, are trying to destroy a man because he threatens their power. These are wicked people obsessed with a person, and we will seek justice. We guarantee that.
This is a news channel, and he is telling the public we're going to see justice. What kind of? Why is this allowed?
Oh my God, my son.
Is he? Do you need to get that? Because you know what?
No, he's just
I've
going
said this
crazy.
about Trump
Oh, sorry.
before.
We don't
He's
need
trying to sell me
we
an
don't
American.
need to hear Jesse Waters anymore. To be
Oh
honest.
my!
Uh-huh.
He is just—he's obsessed. He's in Florida, so it's just like
he needs mom
all of the time.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna let Lana take her phone call to her son. You're not doing the show Thursday night, right? Because of your marathon.
Yeah,
your 5K.
5K.
Yep.
5K for heart disease.
Yep. Okay. Well, also in the meantime, game 1 of the NBA Finals. Let's go, Celtics. Let's go, baby.
Yes. I'll be there at halftime.
I'm going to make my prediction really quick. The Celtics are going to win this series in 5 games.
I hope. 5.
That sounds very aggressive, but they will win this series in 5 games. If they play the best, Kristaps Porzingis is coming back. So 5 games, game 1 Thursday night.
We're going to win game 1.
Oh, no question. If they don't win game 1, it's
right. Not going to be good.
Yeah, no question. All right, Lana, thank you again. And we will see everybody next Tuesday night.
Bye.
Good night.
Have a good